My new neighbor's daughter pointed at my tattoo. "Mom, he has yours." I never saw her the same way. The little girl wasn't staring at my face. She wasn't looking at the moving boxes or the old pickup truck parked outside my newly rented house. Her eyes were locked on the faded compass tattoo on my forearm. Then, in the quiet sunshine of an ordinary afternoon, she pointed at it and said something that stopped my heart. "Mom, he has yours." Some moments divide a life into before and after. That was one of mine. Before we begin, if stories about kindness, forgiveness, and unexpected second chances mean something to you, we'd love for you to follow Wisdom Story House and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps these stories reach more people who may need a little hope today. I had moved to Willow Creek hoping nobody would recognize me. After 12 years working as a wildlife rescue pilot, I had finally retired following an accident that had left my shoulder permanently damaged. The injury wasn't what haunted me. It was the memories of people I couldn't save and promises I had failed to keep. The small rental house was exactly what I wanted. Quiet streets. Friendly trees. Children riding bicycles in the afternoon. The kind of neighborhood where people still waved from their porches. I told myself this place could become the fresh beginning I desperately needed. The moving truck had barely driven away when I noticed the house next door. A woman was planting flowers while a little girl chased butterflies across the lawn. They looked peaceful, like a family that had already found the happiness I was still searching for. The girl suddenly stopped running. She looked directly at me. Then she saw my tattoo. The faded compass had once been dark blue and black, but years of sun and weather had softened its edges. It wasn't an ordinary design. Inside the compass was a tiny mountain range, a winding river, and 3 small stars. It had been created by only one tattoo artist many years earlier. When the little girl spoke, time seemed to freeze. "Mom, he has yours." The woman instantly looked up. The gardening gloves slipped from her hands. For a second, neither of us moved. Her eyes widened with disbelief before quickly filling with emotions I couldn't identify. Surprise. Fear. Sadness. Maybe even recognition. She quietly called her daughter inside. Without another word, the front door closed. I stood alone beside my boxes wondering how a simple tattoo had changed the atmosphere so completely. That night I couldn't sleep. Rain tapped softly against the windows while memories drifted through my mind. 20 years earlier, before I became a rescue pilot, I had spent one unforgettable summer hiking through national parks with a group of volunteer conservation workers. Among them had been a talented artist named Marin. She loved maps, mountains, and old stories about finding your way home. She had designed matching compass tattoos for a few close friends after we completed a dangerous rescue during a flood. Each tattoo was hand-drawn, slightly different, but unmistakably connected. After that summer everyone slowly moved on with their lives. I had never seen Marin again. The next morning I found the little girl sitting on the sidewalk drawing with colorful chalk. She smiled as if nothing strange had happened. She showed me a picture of a mountain surrounded by flowers. It looked remarkably similar to the tiny mountains inside my tattoo. Children often notice details adults ignore. I complimented her drawing before continuing to unpack. Over the following weeks we occasionally waved at one another, but her mother remained distant. Then one Saturday morning everything changed. I heard frantic barking. Their elderly golden retriever had slipped through an open gate and wandered into the nearby woods. Without thinking, I grabbed my hiking boots and joined the search. Hours passed. The forest reminded me of the places where I had spent most of my career rescuing stranded hikers. Finally I spotted the frightened dog trapped beneath fallen branches near a creek. Carefully freeing him without causing further injury took nearly an hour. When I carried him back, muddy and exhausted, the little girl wrapped her arms around the dog's neck and cried with relief. Her mother looked at me differently for the first time. Not as a stranger. As someone she wanted to understand. A few evenings later she knocked on my door carrying homemade soup. She introduced herself as Ilara. Her daughter's name was Nessa. After several awkward minutes of conversation, she finally glanced toward my arm. She asked where I had gotten the tattoo. When I told her about the conservation project 20 years earlier, she quietly rolled up her own sleeve. There it was. A compass almost identical to mine. The tiny mountains. The river. The stars. Only one detail was different. A small pine tree had been added near the edge. For several long moments neither of us spoke. Then she smiled through tears. She explained that Marin had been her older sister. My chest tightened. I hadn't even known Marin had a younger sister. Ilara told me that after that unforgettable summer, Marin had often spoken about a quiet young volunteer who always helped everyone before helping himself. She had never forgotten me. But life had taken them in different directions. Several years later, Marin became seriously ill. Before she passed away, she left behind sketchbooks filled with artwork, maps, and stories about the people who had changed her life. One of those pages described the matching compass tattoos. Ilara admitted she had copied the design after losing her sister because it made her feel as though a small part of Marin still traveled beside her. The little girl had grown up seeing that tattoo every day. That was why she recognized mine instantly. The mystery that had haunted me since moving into the neighborhood suddenly became heartbreakingly simple. For the first time in decades, someone remembered a part of my life I thought had disappeared forever. Over the following months our friendship grew naturally. Nessa often asked me to teach her about birds, forests, and constellations. We built birdhouses. We planted wildflowers. We spent afternoons watching clouds drift across endless blue skies while she invented stories about explorers who always found their way home because magical compasses protected kind people. Slowly, something inside me began healing. For years I had believed the greatest measure of a life was the number of people you managed to save. Marin's memory taught me something different. Sometimes the greatest impact comes from simple kindness that quietly lives on inside someone else's heart long after we're gone. One crisp autumn afternoon, Ilara handed me one of her sister's old journals. Inside was a folded sketch. It showed 4 friends standing on a mountain ridge at sunset. Below the drawing Marin had written one sentence. The best people leave footprints on your heart long before you realize they're there. I closed the journal with tears running down my face. I had spent years believing I carried nothing but regrets. Instead, I had unknowingly carried someone's treasured memory. If this story has touched your heart, we'd love to hear what it made you feel. Stories become even more meaningful when people share their own experiences of hope, forgiveness, or unexpected connections. Special request: what would you have done if a child recognized something that connected you to a forgotten chapter of your life? Share your answer in the comments below. As the first snow of winter covered Willow Creek, I looked through my living room window and watched Nessa building a tiny snow compass in the yard while Ilara laughed beside her. For the first time in many years, I didn't feel like a man running from his past. I felt like someone who had finally found his way home. And sometimes, all it takes is one small tattoo, and one honest child, to remind us that the people we lose are never truly gone as long as the love they inspired continues to guide someone else forward.